Welcome everyone to New HD NYC with your host Ray K, available on all major podcast platforms and powered by New HD Media. Now here's your host, Ray K.
Hey guys, we have a special guest today, an author, a rising author. This is a book that's coming out April 23rd, and it's called The Inescapable Consequence. So we're going to get into this book. We're going to talk about how this book came about, the career of J D Belcher, who's my guest. JD, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on.
Oh, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. I have to ask you this, because this is a once in a lifetime. How are you dealing with the virus and the COVID-19? What's your life like during this time?
I think like most of America, I'm kind of tired of being cooped in. I really want to go out, go places, but at the same time, we have to heed the warning of, Dr. Fauci. He says, we need to be patient with it and, not get too out of hand with gathering together to spread the virus so that, there's not a third, fourth, fifth outbreak or something like that. So.
How has this affected your work? Has it affected it at all? You're a writer. Does it really matter that there's a virus out there locking everybody down? Or
well, on one hand, it's pretty good because as a writer, you have time to think. You have a lot of time to think. You have a lot of time to work inside. Okay. That's what writers do. But as far as me personally, it's been it's been okay because I haven't been doing a whole lot of writing. I've been doing a lot of editing. I've been doing a lot of the business of promoting the book and research and things like that. So it's been good for me.
Okay. Let's get into the book. I love the title. I mean, it captures your attention immediately. The Inescapable Consequence. How did this come about? The plot, the characters, and so forth.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the Inescapable Consequence. It's a supernatural, paranormal, fantasy epic. And, it really surrounds a character called Cash. I call him an ill-tempered pizza delivery driver in Pittsburgh who is kind of going through some inner turmoil. One thing he's dealing with is, his self-identity. He doesn't know what it means to be an American. But he's also dealing with the issue of love. He's recently married, and he doesn't really understand what marriage means. He's constantly questioning, does his spouse love him? And after he marries his Egyptian wife, she's a second generation American, Egyptian American. She is he's something strange happens. He's tormented by these nightmares of this demon called Azazel who threatens to take his life away from him, or his wife away from him, not his life, excuse me. But his salvation comes when he has an encounter with an angel who basically opens his eyes, opens his ears, and reveals like there's this hidden secret society behind all of this, and propels him toward a destiny that he never could have imagined.
Now, how do you come up with this? Is this something you just think day to day, or is it based on reality of some at some point, or how does your imagination go to these places?
Well, when I was conceptualizing the plot, there were 4 main ideas that I really wanted to make as endpoints in the story.
Okay.
One was the whole idea of race and ethnicity. There was an author, the late Toni Morrison, and I hate to jump on the quote bandwagon, but she said something that really struck me. She said, if there's a book that you want to read, but it hasn't been written, you have to be the one who writes it. And when I heard that, I said, wow, that's exactly where I am. And what I really wanted to do was I wanted to create a story about not a tragic mulatto. That's a word that you don't hear often, mulatto, But I wanted to, you hear it in literary circles, but you don't hear it too often anymore. But what I really wanted to do was I wanted to create a story about a heroic mulatto. So, and it wasn't an easy thing to do. When you sit down and you think about that, it was a very tough task, but I think I was able to nail it. The second thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to talk about marriage and religion. Cash, mulatto basically means that you're mixed race. Now you have biracial, more than one race. You have, Italian, Filipino, Welsh, just crazy stuff going on in our country right now. But there used to be a term called mulatto that summed the whole thing up, and we don't do that anymore. And again, that's probably a whole nother show that,
Is that an acceptable term, the mulatto?
Well, you know what? Some people they don't like it, because its origins go back to the word mule, But some people, I've read and I've seen videos where people they really accept it. It's better than having nothing,
Right.
But I really want to address the whole idea of marriage and of religion. In the story, Cash and his wife Kia, they move, set in Pittsburgh. They move to Squirrel Hill after they're married. Now, Squirrel Hill is like, it used to be, I don't know if this is true anymore, but it used to be like the third largest Jewish community in the nation. So you have like, the whole Christian, because Cash is a Christian, Muslim, Jewish thing going on in the story, which is very important. But also, personally, I was married twice, and they both left. And at the time, I really didn't understand what was going on. So I kind of fell back into my own religious beliefs and my own faith, and I did something crazy, something that most people probably don't do, or I've never met anyone else who's done this before. But I had never really read the scriptures, so I said, you know what, I'm going to read the Bible from front to back. And not only that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a journal entry on every chapter of every book of the Bible as I'm doing. Wow. I put myself on this like really, really extreme regimen, and it took me about 3.5 years to get it done. But one of the things that I found was that, because I was looking for, I was like, there has to be something in here that says or has some solution or some answers as to why why your wife would want to just up and leave you, Right. So all of a sudden, I started to go, to people like Isaac, to people like Abraham, even back to Adam and Eve, if you think about it. But like there's a really interesting story, and all of this kind of segues together about a group of angels that were called Watchers, who were expelled from heaven, and I think there were about 200 of them. They were called the Grigori, and what they did was they taught human beings the forbidden knowledge or whatever. I don't know. A lot of people out there might listen to or watch Ancient Aliens. They talk about it all the time. But another thing that they did was they slept with human women. And I'm pretty sure I would venture to say they probably did some wife taking too. So that's where I came up with the antagonist of the story, who is Azazel. So that was another thing that kind of drove the plot and the story, and helped some of the characters come to me. The third thing was I wanted to talk about, and this is my favorite subject of all time. It's the idea of having a spiritual awakening. There's a saying that some of the best stories that you hear are about normal people who are put into extraordinary circumstances, and it's so very true. But one of the things that happens, especially in certain genres like horror, paranormal, or supernatural. It happens all the time. I think it should be its own genre. Is the whole idea of when a character has a spiritual awakening experience. And what that is I define it as when an individual suddenly and unexpectedly becomes aware of the spiritual activity that surrounds them. Okay, so that was something that I wanted the main character to go through, also to prepare to propel the story forward. And the last thing, and I don't want to give too much away, but the book addresses mass shootings. And in our contemporary culture, really, even when I was younger, I remember when they first, I was watching TV and I saw live on television when the what was it, the Oklahoma City building blew up. That really affected me. But now it's just like almost like every single day we have like these mass shootings, and I wanted to address what is behind that. So I think all of those things that I just mentioned, that they are somehow linked together. And this is just my opinion, but I wanted to put that in the story and see what happens.
Wow. Okay. So you're putting like it all together, like all these, like, the last few years have been, pretty tumultuous. We found out a lot of things, and it seems like your book is like, has everything in it, on everything we're going through, just by hearing what you just said. What I have to ask you this, JD, why the mass shootings? I mean, just in general. I know, we'll find out in the book, but if you could say in general, like what's behind it? Why are these things happening? Is there any, like what's your opinion?
Like in the early stages of conceptualizing this novel, The Inescapable Consequence, I had no idea. Like I was thinking to myself, like, what would make a person do that? So that's where I started. I said, what would make this character do something like that? And me personally, like I said, I think it's very spiritual. I think that a lot of these guys, and I say guys because you don't see a whole lot of women, running up into schools and the post office or whatever and just, killing everybody. But I think that it has something to do with having some type of spiritual awakening experience that goes bad, because in the spirit realm, when you talk about paranormal, supernatural things, there's good things and there's bad things. And I think that, in my opinion, I think that some people are opened up to it, and they're opened up to the wrong things, and they're driven the wrong way.
What attracts you to this particular paranormal area? Like why are you into it so much?
Well, that's interesting. My mother and my mother's mother, my grandmother, they were very, very spiritual people. I grew up in, first I went to an Assemblies of God church. I had a friend who was an Episcopalian. I loved to go on to his church on Sunday sometimes. But my grandmother like put these books before me at a very young age that just blew my mind, like C.S. Lewis's The Screw Tape Letters. She gave me this book one time. It was called Mysteries of the Unknown. Talked about like the Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot and UFOs and all this crazy stuff. So I'm reading it at a young age, and it really started to influence me. And I think what she was trying to do, she was trying to like lure me that way because of something. But what really did it was when my father, and my dad never ever gave me a book before, but the one time in my life that my dad gave me a book, he handed me The Talisman by Stephen King, and he says, JD, this is a good book, you have to read it. And I'm probably 10 years old, 11 years old, and I'm reading Stephen King's The Talisman.
Pretty heavy stuff for 10 years old.
It's very heavy stuff, and I never stopped. He's one of the American great storytellers, and I study him a lot. And he if anyone else does it, he does it the best. So that I would say he's been a big influence, as far as like the whole paranormal, supernatural fantasy type
Is
stuff.
that what paranormal is? Supernatural? Is that what that means? That word?
Yeah, it's all kind of, especially in literary terms, they're all interwoven. You have paranormal, you have magical realism, you have horror, you have fantasy. They come up with all these crazy names that, in my opinion, just basically, say the same thing. And like I said, I think it should be, spiritual awakening genre.
Do you believe there is, I don't know, spirits and ghosts and these kind of things around us? Do you believe in that?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. I believe in angels and demons.
When you have something happen in general, JD, and it seems like it's a sign, like if something happened and I missed the appointment for some reason, do you think that there's a reason for that, and then maybe there's a car accident, or I mean, sometimes in my life something happens, I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna take this as a sign and just maybe not go to this meeting, or just do something else,
Mhm.
or is that in my own mind that I kind of like use my own judgment?
Well, I think that there is this sort of randomness in the world. One of my favorite sayings is, if a butterfly lands on an anaconda's nose in the middle of the Amazon, it does affect the price of tea in China. Like, I believe that everything is connected in some way. But there are random things that happen too. But I think it's kind of like sound. Sometimes it's very, very soft. Sometimes it's just so loud, and you can just, it's just blasting, and you can't help but say, okay, this has to be some type of sign.
Okay, okay. How was your childhood growing up? Were you, I mean, were you in the mulatto mode, or like just tell us growing up and how you got into writing. Give me the 5-minute version.
As far as writing is concerned, I think that all great writers, all writers are first, they're readers first,
Okay.
right? So, like, going way back, like when I was in high school, for example, I read C.S. Lewis's, or not C.S. Lewis, I'm sorry, but J.D. Salinger's Catcher in the Rye. I read Lord of the Flies, that type of stuff. In college, when I studied, I changed my major probably like 7 times, from like engineering to undecided to education and all this other crazy stuff. But back then, I had a couple of really, really great professors. One guy's name was Dave Schifrin. He wrote the Hardy Boys mystery novels. I don't know if you remember those.
Yeah, I
And
remember.
I had
Yeah.
another,
Mhm.
and I had another professor's name was Chuck Kinder. And Chuck, they were like shooting a movie about him at the time. This is when I was going to the University of Pittsburgh, called The Wonder Boys. So, like, during that time, it was really, really felt Hollywood. When I was there. And I have a couple of people in my family who are like, big time uh, uh, into movies and into the whole writing scene. I have a cousin named Michael Thatcher who lives out in LA. He's like a professor, I think, for like UC Berkeley. At the time he was covering like the riots out in LA. So I turn on the TV and he's on CNN. Or my cousin Cindy Datcher, his sister. She was in a starring role next to Elizabeth Hurley in Passenger 57 and Wesley Snipes. So, like,
Oh,
you turn on TV and you see them, and they're in your family and stuff, and you go
yeah.
to the family reunion, they're right there. You go to your aunt's house, and they're right there. You can imagine like how influential that was.
Right.
So while all that was going on, never thought about being a mixed race. Never thought about being mulatto. Never considered the
You're a
term.
mixed race, JD, or not?
You know what? I'm still trying to find the truth in all of that.
Oh, okay.
From,
Okay.
from what I know so far, it's a mix. I mean, it's really, really a mix of a lot of different things.
Okay. 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 Yeah, that's always good to do before everyone, passes away, to find out the history of everybody. I have
Yeah.
some older relatives. I'm trying to do that. They're 90s. I want to find out things, because once they
Mhm.
go, everything goes, you know?
Yeah, that's the bad side of it. You have to, yeah, you really have to find a way to get to those people, before, time runs out.
Right, right, right. Did you always have writing skills, JD? I mean, was this something you always good at school, or did I guess you always develop it, but I mean, were you naturally gifted as a writer?
I got good grades. I got A's and B's. I wouldn't say that I was, like, I excelled at it at all. I did, like I
Okay.
said, a lot more reading than writing in my early years, even into university studies, and afterwards. I call myself a self-educated man. I learned a lot just through the whole business of writing, and having to do a lot, honestly, just by myself, just learning, what it takes to have something that is quality material. Sometimes you can't have someone teach you that. You need to learn it for yourself.
Right,
But I
right.
would say that, I think I'm a lot better than I used to be.
Okay. Tell me about your memoir, Haiti. I mean, this is another title, Haitis Melody. Tell me about that.
Yeah, Hades Melody. That was my first novel, as a memoir, and it's about the summer of 2001, like right before the 9/11 attack. You talk about paranormal things going on. That summer was, I mean, that was my book, that was my novel. But getting there was absolutely the most difficult thing that I think that I've ever tried to do. I mean, it was like the gods were against me getting that story out. Um, my first wife left during the early stages of that book, after it was first published. The publisher, canceled the contract early. After it was, a lot of editing, it was resubmitted to another publisher called Tate Publishing. They were in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and all of a sudden, like 6 months into it, uh, there was like this tornado outbreak, and like, my contact person, she was sending out emails crying, saying so many people in the company had lost their homes, and I'm like, this is crazy, what's going on? And then all of a sudden, they go out of business. It's something like the CEOs or something were arrested, and they were for corruption or something like that. And I'm like, wow, this is absolutely insane. And then, my real name is Jovan Donnell Belcher. Uh, there was like this guy who played for Kansas City Chiefs. He's a linebacker, Jovan Belcher. During that time, he commits suicide. It was just like all this crazy stuff was going on, like an asteroid fell in Russia
I
out of the
remember. Yeah.
sky. It
Right.
was just like a bunch of just crazy stuff going on. But then finally, when I hooked up with Yorkshire Publishing, even then, I started to think about it. I said, okay, something crazy is going to happen. And sure enough, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where the headquarters of this publishing company is located, there was like this there was flooding in Tulsa, Oklahoma, like there had never been flooding before, like right down the street from this place. And I'm like, okay, here we go again. But thank God, I was able to get through all of that. And it was just a very, very, very tough experience getting Hades Melody, getting it published.
Do you think there was other reasons why somebody was testing you, or the gods were testing you, or I mean, could it be just coincidence that all these things just so happen to happen, like that affected you, or I mean, I always think maybe there's something going on, but
Those are
who
the facts.
knows?
I'm just giving you the facts. You can go back and check it yourself. I don't know what was going on. I felt like, that there was something against that story
Some negative energy that. Okay.
getting out there. And I think,
Okay.
yeah, like I said, all these things are connected. I think that there was some connection between 9/11, because that's in the story. There's some other things in Hades Melody that readers will find very interesting. I'm waiting. If anybody from like Ancient Aliens is listening to this or watching this, I'm telling you, they need to pick up that book. They're gonna call me and say, "Wow."
It's funny you said that about, well, not funny, but on 9/11, usually you go to New York and it's always okay. Me and my wife were there about 2 weeks before 9/11. It was summer, hot, humid, and she wanted to get out of there. I mean, we were visiting, and she's like, she felt a bad energy. She's like, you know what, I just don't like this. Let's just go.
Mhm.
And I'm like, huh. I kind of felt it a little bit. I'm like, yeah, I know it feels a little intense, or I don't know what it is. And then 9/11 occurred, so you always wonder, was she like tuned into something, or like I never heard her say that before in all the trips in New York's always a little intense, but this
Mhm.
one time, and that was 2 weeks before 9/11, so in my mind, I don't know, she was tapped into something. I know we have that, so anyway, that's my little
I, I
story.
really believe that. I
Yeah,
really
yeah,
believe it
yeah,
happened.
yeah, yeah. How did you hook up with your publisher? Like, for anyone, any aspiring writers out there, I always wonder how these things happen. How do you connect with a publisher, and how did you connect with yours?
Like a lot of writers, I sent out a lot of query letters, to these literary agents, and I got a lot of rejections. You get a couple of, people who might be interested, a couple of bites. But how I hooked up with Yorkshire was, after Tate Publishing went out of business, they were kind of rerouting a lot of their authors to different publishing houses, and they connected me with Yorkshire, and then so after all that stuff had happened, that's how I hooked up with them.
Okay. What is the goal when you have a book, JD? I mean, I guess to make the New York Times bestseller list, or like, what's the goal for, or is there a goal for the inescapable consequence? Like, what do you hope happens with this?
I hope readers like it. I
Okay.
hope that it's a story that is enjoyable and entertaining. I hope people learn something from it. I hope people can relate to it. Um, and I just hope that, of course, everyone wants to be on the New York Times bestsellers list. Everyone wants to, win a Pulitzer Prize. Uh, I want it to be successful, of course. But I just hope people read it and they really enjoy it.
Okay. On your previous book, the Haitis Melody, I mean, you got me intrigued with all those. Is that all in the book? And is it literally the memoir of your life during that particular time period?
Yeah, it's just it's a memoir, but it's not. I wouldn't say it's of my entire life. It's just
Okay.
during that summer, like a little bit before, during, and then a little bit after.
Okay. Okay.
But like I said, some very, very strange things going on that summer.
Okay. Okay. JD, I'm gonna do a word association, about 4 questions. Is that okay?
Okay.
And we're gonna
Sure.
wrap it up, and then we'll
Okay.
wrap it up with your book. Okay. First word that comes to your mind. Ready? What is your favorite color?
Um, Blue.
Okay. What's your favorite movie?
Uh, my favorite movie of all time. That's a tough one. I've watched thousands of them. But my favorite one would probably be The Color Purple.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's intense. That's a tearjerker, right? At
Yeah,
some
Steven
points.
Spielberg. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. If you were in a foxhole, other than family members, who would you have in a foxhole with you?
Other than family members,
Yeah. No family members. Yeah.
um, who? It has to be a person. Can't be like my cat or my dog or anything.
Uh, yeah. No biblical figures or cats or dogs. Yeah.
um, I would have to say, I don't know. I have to pass on that one. I can't think of
Okay.
any.
Well, okay. I'll open up to anything. If you could have anything in that foxhole with you, what would you have there? Who would you have there with you?
I'd have a Bible with me.
A what?
A Bible.
Okay. 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 Now, if you were on a deserted island for 3 years, and I'll let you bring one musical CD album or download, what music would you bring there?
Mm. It's another tough question. What kind of music would I bring? I really don't know.
Okay.
Maybe like a Chopin CD.
Okay. What's the best What, other than the Bible, what is the best book ever?
The best book ever that I've read. Um, I would have to say, I don't think I've read it yet.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. So not one book made you think that's it. You're still looking for. Okay, okay. Wow, wow. I like that. I like that. Who is the most famous person you ever met?
The most famous person that I've ever met would probably be, um, oh man, I have to think about that one. Um, Probably my cousin Cindy. I think she's the most famous person that I've ever met.
Oh, okay. Cindy Belcher, is it? What's
No,
the
no,
last name?
Cindy Thatcher.
Batcher. All right.
Thatcher.
Thatcher. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Where is she? I got to look her up. I haven't heard of her.
Yes, exactly. I don't know. There's not a
Okay.
whole lot of famous people that I come
Okay.
up
Okay. Okay. I was wondering if it was me. Okay.
with. It might be.
Yeah, it might be me. Yeah. Right. 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 I like it. I like it. What is the best advice you ever received or would give?
The best advice that I would give to someone is to, yeah, trust in the Lord Jesus with all your heart.
Okay. And what does that trust mean? Okay, I trust Jesus. Okay, that everything if I do the right things, things will turn out okay. Like, what does
Yeah,
it mean?
just never forget. Just never forget that He came, He died, and He rose again. And if
Hmm.
you believe that with all your heart, I think you'll be all right. That's
Okay.
the best advice I can give.
Okay. All right. A couple more. If you had to meet someone in the world tomorrow, who would you meet? Anyone in the world. I'm going to let you meet this person. No biblical figures. Anyone alive or dead, human being.
I would like to meet the president of the WHO Foundation.
Okay. 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 And last question, JD. If you had one wish in the world, and I'm a genie, I'm going to grant this wish tomorrow. It's going to happen tomorrow. And this is one wish, and that's it. What would your wish be?
So who's asking me the wish?
What do you mean? Who's asking you? I'm asking you the wish.
Oh, you're asking me if I can grant you something tomorrow.
Oh no, I'm going to grant you a wish.
Oh, you're gonna grant me a wish,
Yeah, I'm a
okay?
genie again, and I'm going to grant you a wish.
Okay. Uh, give me uh, give me $1 million.
Okay. Okay. Just 1 million?
Just 1 million.
Okay. You're not too greedy. Okay. All right. JD, let's wrap up the book. The release date is April 23rd.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Okay. Will it be on the Kindle, all the usual platforms, Amazon, where you can buy it? Will it be? I don't even know if the bookstores are taking books now with the virus.
All
Like,
right, wherever
where do we
books
get
are
it?
sold. Yeah, you can find it wherever books are sold.
Okay. And do you have a website?
Yeah. You can find me at Belcher Inc. That's BelcherInk.com.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. And your other book, the same, right? It's on all wherever you could buy books. Haitis Melody, same thing.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can find it.
What do you think? What do you think happens over the next year? Do you think we're gonna get out of the virus, or what's your hope for the world? I mean, it's been such a crazy year. I guess will good come out of it? Do you believe, or what's your prediction over the next year? What's going to happen? I'll put you on
Well,
the spot before we
no,
wrap up.
that's fine. It's a great question, by the way. You're asking someone who wrote a journal entry for every chapter of every book of the Bible, and when you do that, you start to see certain things, and I think that a lot of people really need to start studying the Book of Revelation now.
The Book of Revelation.
The Book of Revelation, yeah. So
Book
I
of
think we
Revelation.
are right now. I think we are in the Book of Revelation. I think the Book of Revelation is kind of like a live book of the Bible. Like it's happening now, you know. And if you look at chapter 6 in the Book of Revelation, it talks about the four horsemen the apocalypse. Okay, there's a red horse. Actually, there's a white horse in this order. There's a white horse. There's a red horse. There's a black horse, and there's a horse that's kind of like a sorrel color horse, speckled. The white horse signifies, and this is just my opinion, the way that I read it, but I think it's true. The white horse signifies conquering, going out and conquering the whole world. And when you think about the white horse, you might think about democracy. You might go back and think about imperialism. You might think about technology now. But it goes out and it conquers the whole world. The red horse talks about people starting to kill one another. And this is all in the book of Revelation, chapter 6. And you might start to think about the world wars, going back to the Civil War here in the United States, World War I, World War II, Korean War, Vietnam War, the Persian Gulf. It's just so much war, so much killing, terrorism now, school shootings. I believe that is and was the red horse. But the next horse, and I think this is where we are, is the black horse. And the black horse, it's about the economy. And that is exactly where we are. And I think that, people really need to start paying attention to what's going on there.
So what do you see happens?
The next horse is the speckled horse. And there's a lot more studying that I have to do. But it talks about, it just goes on and on and on to more, to more. I think there's going to be more wars for sure.
So it's going to go through bad times before
I think there's going to be a lot more paranormal, supernatural things happening, signs in the skies, signs in the heavens. It's a complex book, but it's a book that is beginning to open up more and more and more. And I can't say that I'm, an absolute authority on it yet. I'm still doing a lot of studying, but I think that's where we are.
Okay, thank you. J D Belcher, thanks for coming out. A few great books. I want you to check out Haitis Melody and The Inescapable Consequence, coming out April 23rd.
Thanks for having me, Ray.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of New HD NYC. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast platform.